Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of It's Messy, but It's So Good. And today I welcome my guest, Wendy Carlson. And Wendy is an intuitive healer, a shaman, and a life coach. And her passion is all about supporting others in living an authentic life that's just filled with peace, abundance, love, and joy. And she uses all her intuitive abilities to communicate with high vibrational helping guides, both the clients and her own, to obtain wisdom and healing to support the client. So enjoy the show. Okay, well, welcome, Wendy Carlson.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's so nice to have you. I just want to note that Wendy was one of my dear coaches that I really loved working with in the Tolera Mastery program that I studied, which was a 2-year program. And I really enjoyed working with Wendy because just of the creativity that I always found working with you as a coach. And of course, the deep spiritual connection. So it's so nice to have you here at It's Messy, but It's So Good.
Thank you.
Okay. I just want to talk a little bit about Wendy very briefly. I'm going to let her talk a little bit more about her journey. But Wendy is an intuitive healer and a shaman and a life coach. And she has a company called Magnificent Life. And we'll talk a little bit more about her offerings later on. So Wendy, I would love if you can just take us through your journey of how you got into this work, what creativity, what passion was there for you. And you could start at the beginning to the present time.
Great. So this journey has been a while. I'd say it's probably been about 20 years. And it was messy. For me, it started with pain, a lot of physical pain that was happening. I guess I'll back up a little bit just to say, growing up, there was just a lot of anxiety. There was alcoholism. There was a lot of dis-ease. And I moved a lot as a child, like every 3 to 4 years. So I learned at a very young age to sort of brace for life, I guess is the best way I could say it. So I was able to sort of like brace and kind of white knuckle through my life. And I also was very good at navigating kind of how I needed to be or who I needed to be for other people, and also that their needs became more important than mine. So from that like platform on, I didn't know it, but at the time I wasn't really being my authentic self, and I was pushing down, embracing a lot of like feelings and anxieties and emotions myself because I felt like others couldn't handle it, and I needed to navigate my world. So flash forward, I have children, and, I was always the good little girl. I could figure out like what people needed from me and how I could show up to serve them. And I had these 2 magnificent Geminis that came in, not twins, but they're born 3 years apart. And boy, did they push my buttons. They were spirited children. They were, my daughter had some special needs. So there was a lot going on, and it became really messy, to the point that like I couldn't control them. I couldn't control their reactions. I couldn't control my reactions. And remembering at the time, all this rage and anger started coming out because I couldn't control my world anymore. And so at that point, my husband and I had also made the decision that I would stop working in the corporate world and I would become, a stay-at-home mom. And my children really needed that. They needed some sense of groundedness and some sense of peace and calm, which I at the time did not have for myself. So the pain started to speak to me and got me to basically find what's going on in my body. Why am I feeling so much pain? And while the medical community at the time was trying to diagnose me with things that were not valid, you might have rheumatoid arthritis, you might have lupus, you might have MS. But all the tests came back and none of that was relevant. And I remember speaking to the rheumatologist, which was kind of my last appointment with the medical community at the time. And they said, but we're going to give you these 2 prescription pills, take them, even though you don't have rheumatoid arthritis, and come back in 3 months. And I remember walking out of that office saying, why would I take something if I don't have that? And as I went home that day and got my mail, it was almost like I was asking myself and starting to have a conversation internally with like, why would I do that? Even though this is an expert and, I trust, those adults and other people in my life that are professionals or, have, training. It didn't resonate with me. And so when I went to the mailbox, there was this article about a woman who was a kinesiologist and a nutritionist who said, why we are being over-diagnosed and over-medicated for things we don't have. And I was like, oh my gosh. So that launched me on exploring other alternatives as to what was going on with my body. And basically what I learned through that was that my body was trying to get my attention. It was internally screaming at me and I wasn't listening. So it was that moment on that I started to open up to alternative ways of healing. So first of all, listening to my body, what my body needed as far as food and nutrition. And then it turned into, yoga and movement. And I became a yoga teacher. And then it was, Reiki and working with subtle energies within my body. And I became a Reiki master. And then it was like, okay, what am I meant to do with this? And I came across an email on my computer. Again, the universe uses the mail on my email. And it was, do you want to be a healed healer? And I was like, yeah, I want to be a healed healer. What does that mean? And it was a 2-year program. The first year was more about working with the chakra system and working, with crystals and energy. And the second year was a shamanic program. And I was like, what's a shaman? And so I said yes without even really knowing like what that was or what that was meant to be for me. And then throughout that process, I was starting to sit in meditation circles and intuitive circles so I could begin to open up my own intuition and start to listen to that voice more that said, why would I do this? And in that process, I started to meet all these guides that were available to me. So not only my higher version of myself, but there were angels and there were ascended masters and there were other healers, shaman, teachers that were in the energy. Like I'd go into meditations and I'd see them come to the fire and they'd say, you're a shaman. And I'd say, but what does that mean? And how do I do that in this lifetime? And so then I was led to my shamanic teacher who I've been studying with now for, let's say, 10 years plus, which led me eventually to the Talera mastery program, which she has gotten from her masters. And so what I'll say is my journey has been a journey. I like to say that my journey is from pain to passion, because now I'm so passionate about sharing all the tools that I've learned about how to tune in and how to listen to not only my body, but the guidance that's within me and not have to necessarily rely on everybody else's advice, or more importantly, to stand in the authenticity of who I am, as opposed to letting myself be what I think everybody else needs me to be. So that's been a huge part of my journey.
Yeah. When you were talking in the beginning about the people pleasing and, the stress and the anxiety, one thing that I come to realize too from a lot of other mentors and studying and just getting into my own healing is we really needed that. That kept us safe. And it's okay. We can forgive that part of ourselves. And I think that's such an important part of healing because, otherwise we go into that cycle of why and, that's not fair and, all of those spinning. And it's a process, to kind of open up to that. So I appreciate you sharing, your whole journey of, awakening and just, I had no idea that you had all of that going. Yeah, but it seems it's a story that you hear so many times, how people have come from that part of themselves that just, was suppressed and repressed, and it was just keeping them safe. And it's okay. It's okay that we did that and to embrace it,
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like in a way, it was almost like I did it to keep others safe as well. So I was like almost suppressing my own ability to trust my own instincts because I needed to tend to everybody else. So, I love how you reflected it back to me in that way. And like you said, like, I am so grateful for the environment that I grew up in, that I moved so often, because now I just made a huge move again in my life at, after 22 years of living in a house. And I love this quote, and I'm not going to remember who said it because it's a little plaque I have on my thing, but it says, "Move and the rest will open." And as I moved physically from another, town, like, all these things are opening up for me, you know what I mean? In my family and in the extension of my family. So I'm grateful for the movement that's happened throughout, and that I was able to be adaptable, and all of that. And I'm so grateful for these two children that came in that were not these little easy, because they were my greatest teachers. You know what I mean? So I love all of the messiness part of that. And I was thinking about that today, and I said, what, one of the I guess keys for me was that, to not look at it like it's messy, to look at it like it's magnificent. You know what I mean? Like, okay, here's this opportunity for I go, what's going on here? And especially with my body, like, why am I feeling this tightness in my chest? I used to hold it like, oh my gosh, what did I do? What did I do wrong? Or what do I need to do to stretch it or fix it or move it? And now it's like, oh, let me pause. Just, what do you want to say to me? What's going on? And so now I learn, like, it's an opportunity to now embrace what's going on, and then to tune into it, get the information from it, the guidance and wisdom or lessons or whatever it is, and then move forward from that place. So that's been a huge transition and transformation for me.
Yeah. And I love what you said about your kids, because I think, when kids come into our lives, it's our wake up call too. Like, okay, what kind of mother or parent do I want to be? And I better start working on my shit. And they reflect back, it's such a gift. I would love it if you could talk a little bit about practices, because I know you have so many that you use for yourself and for your clients. What practices, when we're in, and I do call it messy because it is magnificent and it is so good. That's the magnificent part. But, when we come across, maybe a fear or an anxiety, or maybe we don't even know what it is, but we feel uncomfortable. And as we're going through our healing journey, is there any particular practices or tools that you could share with the audience that might be simple enough for people to maybe incorporate into their life?
Sure, absolutely. The first one that comes is simply just to pause and breathe. I remember in the beginning part of my journey, when I was having the pain, I'd talk to practitioners and they'd be like, okay, breathe. I'm like, I'm breathing. No, you're not breathing. So just to, like, tune into your breath and to take a breath. I love the ocean sounding breath or the ujjayi sounding breath, where you just take, a slow, deep inhale through your nose, and then a slow exhale out of your mouth. It can either be open or closed, and then listen to the tone of that breath. So, and just feel the subtle energy that is created in breathing within your chest, perhaps even noticing the rhythm of your heart, and even noticing where you might be feeling any tension or tightness. Because usually when we're anxious, when we're nervous, when we're stressed, we're tightening, we're tensing in order to maybe brace through it, or we've kicked into a little bit of fight or flight. So just take a moment and breathe, and allow that parasympathetic nerve to kick in as we start to breathe and relax a little bit, and just give ourselves the grace and the compassion of, okay, I'm feeling nervous, I'm feeling tense, and just tune into that for a moment. And even just turning towards it and acknowledging it, often for me, I might hear that little voice that says, oh, right, I'm nervous about the podcast I'm about to do. And and instead of going into, oh my God, what am I going to say? And oh my gosh, and what's she going to say? Just breathe and just know that all will be okay is if you just trust and if you center and ground yourself, into your body. And for me, it's also calling on the support that's available to me. So maybe it's calling on my body or my guides or the wisdom that's within me to just come forth and being very intentional in that. So being intentional in the breath and being intentional in how I want to show up and how I want to co-create. And so my intention is to be here and to be in this loving presence with Fran, and whatever comes out, whatever we co-create, I'm grateful and I'm trusting that it's all meant to be. And so now I feel my overall body just calming as I sit into that.
That feels so good. And it's the remembering to take that pause. It's so simple. And we have a pharmacy within our own body that spirit has created for us. And it's, often just people, I find they complicate, perhaps. Some people just complicate the practice. It could be 5 minutes. It could be 3 minutes. And it makes such a difference, It just changes all the energy. And that's, I think, the hardest part, right? For people to just know that this is so essential. It's like is as important as washing our face, brushing our teeth, to take that few minutes to check in. Like, what's going on with me today? How do I feel? How can I just honor that, first of all, right? Exactly what you were saying.
Yeah. And it's easier for us to say it, right? And to take this moment together and for somebody to stop and be guided. And so, like you just said, the simplest way to do it is to have it be maybe part of and even that word routine sometimes gets people to go, I have it up in my routine. But it can be in the shower. And one of my favorite practices, I actually do it outside every day, and I highly recommend it. So is earthing. And you can do it physically by going out, and I have snow right now outside my window. I know this is a podcast, but we have a foot of snow. And before I put my shoes on, I go out barefoot every single day, even if it's for 30 seconds or if it's for 4 minutes, and I connect to the elements. So I just take a moment and I just feel the earth underneath my feet. I feel the air, and I take that first breath of, obviously not the first breath of my day, but the first really intentional, conscious breath of the day. And I breathe in that oxygen and thank the trees for the oxygen. And I feel the air on my skin, and I connect to the sun. If it's there, I see it and I thank it. If it's not there, I know it's there. And so take a few moments and I connect to all of the elements because they're there to support us. We're here on this earth. And if we can be in synchronicity and connection with the elements and be in gratitude of, the trees and the breath that we're taking, that helps your day flow. It's connecting to flow. It's connecting to ease. So just simple practices like that. Now, I know for some people, like, I'm going to go out and but just try it. It's like invigorating. It's like, for me, once I do that, like my whole day opens up in such a different place than if I'm racing through my day to get out the door. And you can do this in the shower. Like, just step into the shower. Oh, I'm feeling the warm water. Oh, it's clearing and cleansing me. And oh, I'm connecting to the warmth. Just take a moment to be mindful and intentional. And that's all it takes. And it really makes a difference in your day. So,
yeah, I love that. I'm very fortunate that, I used to live in New York City, but years ago I moved to upstate, not to upstate, but upstate in New York. And I can just look out the window and I can see a lake in the distance. And yeah, you're so right. Just looking at the stillness that we see outside our window, whether it be, a tree, like just moving. It's very woo-woo, but it is woo-woo and it's cool. Just seeing that beautiful wind moving, the rustling of a leaf, or just the snow on a branch. I mean, it's just in that moment, it's just so peaceful and connected. And it reminds us, right, like what you said, that we are connected. We are always connected. We just,
And nature goes through its messiness and it goes through its cycles every day, every season, and it's still here, right? It thrives, it drops off, things shed and things. So why not like learn from it and connect with it and call on it, to support. So yeah, for me, that's been one of my easiest tools, and it's right there. It's right outside our door, and yet you don't even have to leave your door because, like you said, you could look out the window, or you could close your eyes and you can picture that tranquil place. Because it's where our mind goes, our energy goes, right? So if our mind's going to that peaceful place, then your energy is going to be a little bit more relaxed and peaceful.
so true. I'm just curious, do you have, because you are a shaman, and I don't know that much about shamanism, do you have a specific, maybe that is a tool that you use from shamanism because it's very nature oriented, but do you have anything else that might be a simple tool that folks listening can incorporate through your study of shamanism?
Yeah, so definitely nature and connecting to all the guidance that's available to us. So whatever that is for you, some people might know that they have guides that they connect to, angels, loved ones, their higher self. So how do you feel connected? Maybe it's just the sun, right? Maybe it's, holding a rock or a crystal. So knowing that you have all these helping, loving spirits, elements around you is probably like, the greatest gift for me of shamanism, because I don't have to do it alone anymore. Like I went alone for a long time, meaning I can do it, I can white knuckle it. And then when I started to open up and realized I had all the support around me and all I need to do is ask for it and it'll show up, and be intentional. It's really important to be intentional. Like my intention is that, I'm going to show up and be a peaceful, calm, loving presence today. So simple tools of be intentional. Even before you pick up the phone call, my intention is to show up and support. My intention is to speak my truth. So I would say the universe co-creates with you when it knows what your intention is, and the guides and the elements, they will help you to connect to ease and flow when you ask for it. So reciprocal relationship is a very key part of shamanism, is that we have a reciprocal relationship with our earth, with our guides, with all that's around us. So if you don't have that relationship, maybe just start by what connects with me the most and how might I introduce myself? Hey, sun, hey, tree, hey, crystal, and just start to have a relationship with it, and maybe see if you can engage in such a way of hearing and receiving, asking and receiving with whatever that might be.
Yeah. And it again, it comes down to just taking that minute, to connect, and giving yourself that grace because we deserve it.
And I think so many people, and I'll speak for myself, believe that like, I've got to work hard. I've got to do something. I've got to make, and when you're doing that, you're working against flow. You're working against ease. That it's almost like, all the help around us is going, we're here. Why don't you ask for help? Right. And so then it's like when you relax into that,
Yeah.
like a very, very silly example I'll give is my husband and I like watching The Amazing Race. And we're watching The Amazing Race, and these people are working together, and they're trying to do this task, and it's like not going well, and they're fighting, and and they keep trying, and it's breaking, and they can't. And then all of a sudden, somebody will pause from it, and they'll step away, and they'll just like look up, and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, please help me," or whatever. And then they come back, and all of a sudden, it all happens easily. Like that's a perfect example of like when it's hard, step away for a second, take a breath for a second, maybe ask for some support, and then come back and notice how things open up differently.
Yeah. It's so hard for us humans to just let go. And that's because our brain is not wired for that at all. So going into the body then is, I think, just taking that breath, like you said.
Just the breath. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you. I think that's going to be really helpful to people. I was just wondering if you could share a little bit about what you're up to. And I know that perhaps when we air this podcast, there'll be some other things and people can connect on your website to what's up for you then. But what do you have going on?
Sure. Yeah. So I offer one-on-one coaching, and I sometimes offer group coaching programs called Manifesting Your Most Magnificent Life or Manifesting Your Most Magnificent Year, where we utilize some of the Tulare methodology, but some shamanic, techniques and tools of flipping beliefs and maybe shifting contracts and soul contracts and things like that. But I love working one-on-one with people organically, like, just showing up and co-creating whatever, is meant to be with my guides and their guides. And then I love the shamanic piece of it. So I teach, actually facilitate shamanic journeying workshops that are mostly on Zoom, which work just as beautifully in the energy. And also a course called Living a Life in Ceremony, where every day in some subtle way you can be in ceremony. And what I mean by that is it's like maybe it's going out and taking a walk and finding a feather and being like, oh my gosh, thank you, this feather, what does it mean? And it came from above, and I'm going to leave a little something too, so I have a rock in my pocket. And so it's that whole reciprocal relationship, but it's being in ceremony of honoring the earth and the messages that you might get or the support, to how you might celebrate a birthday differently. So there's a class I have, a course on living your life in a more of a ceremony, joyful place. And hoping to put together intention this year, a couple of retreats, so in-person retreats, whether they're one day or weekend retreats. So those will be coming most likely in spring. So
that's exciting. Is that going to be in Massachusetts?
Most likely Massachusetts to begin with. So whether it's Western Mass or Eastern Mass, but eventually it's going to probably be places, yummy places that have energy that, again, I love honoring the places and spaces. So it could be going to Hawaii. It could be, I'm called to lead places and all these, wonderful, yummy spots out in the world. So stay tuned.
Yes, that's great. And your website is magnificentlife.love. And we're going to put everything in the show notes so people will be able to refer back and connect with you. I'd love to ask you, which I ask all my guests, what is the greatest gift? And I know there's probably many that you have received from really stepping into your passion and your passion journey.
Yeah. Oh gosh. So many. I would say, just to recap a little bit of what I already said, is learning that my body is a guide for me, a friend for me. And so that's been my greatest gift, and trusting that I am supported and guided and just leaning into that. And then lastly, it's just like, as I step more into my authenticity and my voice and my path, I'm collaborating with others. Like, we're finding each other and we're supporting each other. And it's about community. It's about connection, and it's about trusting and just like allowing it to unfold without really even knowing where it's going, move and the rest will open. So those are some of the gifts, I guess, that I would say, and that, again, it's not messy always. It can be magnificent, and it's just the way I tend to do it now.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Anything else that you might want to share for the audience before we say goodbye for today?
Just, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. Thank you, Fran, for asking me here. And again, remember, just it's as simple as taking that breath and being intentional. And it can be easy. Life can be easy. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's such a pleasure having you here. Thank you.
You're welcome. I loved being with you as well.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of It's Messy, but It's So Good. I really, really appreciate the support, and I appreciate my guest today, Wendy Carlson. And Wendy shared so much of her journey as an intuitive healer, a shaman and life coach, and founder of Magnificent Life. If you'd like to reach out to Wendy, she has some remote private coaching and intuitive healing sessions to support you in co-creating and living your most magnificent life. She also facilitates monthly shamanic journeying and living a life in ceremony workshops. The best way to get a hold of Wendy is to contact her on her website, which is magnificentlife.love. So thanks again, Wendy, and thank you all for listening. If you love what you heard today, please follow us and give us a review so we can get out there in the podcast world and reach more people. Again, thank you so much. See you next time.